Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence. Hope you're all doing great. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 10 fragrances that deserve the hype. Fragrances get hyped up all the time. They receive so much praise. And then maybe some of them fall flat, or maybe some people would argue that certain fragrances don't deserve the hype. These are 10 fragrances that, in my opinion, deserve all the hype that they're getting. I'm excited to share the list with you, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin this video of 10 fragrances that deserve the hype and all of the attention that they're getting, I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Make sure to hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I do put out future videos. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you take something of value from today's episode. I also want to mention that if you're interested in purchasing or sampling a lot of the fragrances on this list, you may do so at Max Aroma. Great customer service, really friendly staff that works there, fast shipping, and incredible prices on both designer and niche fragrances, and a lot of the fragrances are very hard to find. So with that being said, let's dive into the list, and we'll start things off with the powerhouse. This one is Dylan Blue by Versace. Now, of course, this was Versace's response to Dior Sauvage. Dior Sauvage, bright, pepper, bergamot, ambroxan, a little oceanic, definitely on the fresh side of things. This fragrance kind of adds like this darker, woodsy, almost patchouli-like masculine vibe to it, while taking away that sharp metallic quality that you'll find in the opening of Dior Sauvage. Dior Sauvage also got a lot of hype. I'm not talking about Sauvage in this list, specifically Dylan Blue by Versace. Amazing fragrance. And I also think Oud Noir is a fragrance deserving of the praise that it gets. There's a lot of brands that release fragrances that, in my opinion, don't deserve the hype. This one is definitely one of them for what it did. It took away that metallic opening from Dior Sauvage and created a professional, refined quality. Of course, there's also Elysium by Raja Parfum. This is the Parfum Cologne concentration. In terms of a bright, fresh, bergamot, vetiver, spicy, and woodsy fragrance, Elysium is king, right? Roja Parfum has a lot of fragrances. Candy Oud, Sweetie Oud, Burlington 1819, Harrods, Goodman's by Bergdorf Goodman, which was a collaboration. And then a lot of limited edition releases, Love, Manhattan. But Elysium as a flagship fragrance deserved all of the hype. I once met up with a boutique owner who basically said that Elysium single-handedly keeps the store's lights on. And so you can tell it does very well in terms of sales, and I think the hype is warranted. It's an incredible fragrance, very realistic citrus in the opening, very refreshing, very sophisticated as well. Of course, we also have a very successful fragrance from the mid-90s composed by master perfumer Francis Kurkdjian. This one is the original Le Male. Now, in my personal opinion, Le Male deserves the hype. Ultra Male deserves the hype. There were a lot of other flankers, Fleur du Mal, there's Le Beau Mal, there's Le Beau. There's a bunch of different flankers. Some of them, in my opinion, don't deserve the hype. This one does. Popeye deserves the hype, which was the, summer flanker, and Ultra Male certainly deserves the hype. This one, the lavender, the mint, a lot of people say that it smells like Cuba Gold, which it does. And from what I've read, Cuba Gold came out first, but this was really the mainstream, iconic designer brand level of that aroma, and I think they did a fantastic job with this one. Personally, I'm a huge fan. And then, of course, now we're going back to 2010 with Bleu de Chanel by Chanel. When this fragrance came out, everybody was talking about it. And at one point, it became my most recommended designer fragrance. When people came up to me and they said, hey, you're into fragrances, what do you think I should check out? Nowadays, I might say, Coach Blue, or I might say Mont Blanc Explorer. There's so many recommendations that can be made now. But at the time, I would say from like 2010 all the way up until like 2015, I would say, do you want something very crisp, clean, professional, elegant, and sophisticated? Bleu de Chanel the eau de toilette is the way to go, and that's the one that I'm talking about here. Obviously, the Parfum version is getting a bit of hype. The eau de parfum kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, but the eau de toilette deserves all of the hype that it's getting. So speaking of designer brands, we also have, rest in peace, Thierry Mugler. We have the original Amen, which was a mid-90s release like Le Male by Jean-Paul Gaultier. This one was a pioneer in the gourmand genre. That cotton candy, ethyl maltyl vibe. You had a bit of sweetness, the patchouli, those ambery tones. And there's also that tar note that people talk about. So it's a little dark, it's a little leathery or rubbery, if you will. And the original Amen is just such a game changer, especially when you have a sea of other oceanic and aquatic fragrances, and at the time sport flankers were very popular, and then you have this dark, rich, bold and charismatic gourmand fragrance. You know, it really did things so differently. And with that, we also have Pure Malt. Now, there were some flankers that I wasn't particularly crazy about. Pure Wood was a great one. I don't love it as much as Pure Malt or Pure Havane. Crypto Mint was okay. Ultra Zest was pretty good. Pure Coffee I did enjoy. So there are some that are great. Then there are others that smell good, but perhaps I'm not, the biggest fan of them. Pure Malt, amazing. Boozy, you have that malt sort of whiskey vibe in here. You have those ambery tones with this sort of fruity accord that's in there. Beautifully, beautifully done. And it's also quite sad that so many of the fragrances in the Pure line have been discontinued. And with that, let's talk about two fragrances from the same brand, like I did with these two. From Parfums de Marly, we have Herod, and then we also have Leighton. These are two fragrances that can do no wrong in my eyes. Leighton, Compliment Getter, is the best-selling fragrance from the brand. I personally love Leighton Exclusif, even though I feel like that's for more of a niche crowd. But Leighton, that sort of apple, lavender, sweet vanilla thing that's happening in there. Herod with that sort of honey, tobacco, cinnamon, dark, mysterious, complex aroma that it puts forth. Both of these are incredible fragrances by Parfums de Marly, and definitely two fragrances from the brand that deserve the hype. Performance on these two is also excellent as well. And then, of course, we have one of my favorites, the first private blend that I ever purchased from Tom Ford, and it's Tobacco Vanille. In my opinion, all four of these highly hyped fragrances from that time period deserve the hype. And of course, I'm talking about Noir de Noir, Tuscan Leather, this one, Tobacco Vanille. Neroli Portofino was another one that received so much praise, but the fourth one that I'm referring to is Oud Wood. So Oud Wood, Noir de Noir, Tobacco Vanille, and Tuscan Leather. Those fragrances have created such a wave and a ripple effect in terms of other brands putting out similar fragrances. Like Versace Oud Noir is very similar to Oud Wood. You have a lot of Tuscan Leather inspirations, even Godolphin by Parfums de Marly being one of them. Noir de Noir, I know Armaf has done so much with that. So when we're talking about hyped fragrances, there are fragrances that upon release received a ton of praise, and the praise, as you can see, still holds very strongly with these fragrances. Despite the fact that some of them are several decades old, they're still getting an immense amount of praise, and I think it's very well justified, right? None of these have fallen by the wayside. And this is perhaps the oldest release that I'm going to talk about today, going back to 1985, and it's still getting a ton of praise even today. And by Creed, it's Green Irish Tweed. Of course, there's a lot of debate in regards to whether Aventus deserves the praise that it's receiving. In my opinion, yes and no, something that I'll talk about in the future. But Creed, Green Irish Tweed, classy, professional. It definitely has this youthful, yet very polished and chic vibe about it. The Florentine Iris, lemon verbena, the citrus that's in there, the violet, incredibly classy. I know it gets comparisons to Davidoff's Cool Water and Aspen by Coty, but there's something about Green Irish Tweed. The quality of the ingredients is just put together in a much more polished and much more elegant fashion, and I personally love it. 10 fragrances that deserve the hype. Let me know what 10 fragrances, both designer and niche, do you think deserve the hype? If you can list only one or two, that's fine. Drop a comment below. I love the interaction. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.